The crystalline corridors of Nexus Station gleamed under artificial starlight, a testament to Valorian engineering prowess. Rose's iridescent scales caught the light as she glided through the promenade, her three companions trailing behind her like faithful shadows. She was daughter to Commander Silera, the station's military governor, and she wore her privilege like armor. "Look at that," Rose sneered, pointing a clawed finger toward the maintenance bay. "A human, actually working with his hands like some primitive." Eliam knelt beside a damaged plasma conduit, his calloused fingers moving with practiced precision through the tangle of wires. His worn jumpsuit bore the faded insignia of station maintenance, the lowest caste in Nexus hierarchy. Grease stained his forearms and sweat beaded on his brow despite the climate controls. "They gave him tools," one of Rose's friends chittered. "How quaint. Next they'll teach him to read." Rose's laughter echoed through the corridor, sharp and cruel. The Valorian education system taught that humans were lucky to have been uplifted from their dying world, granted the privilege of serving the greater galactic community. They were laborers, janitors, miners, useful for tasks too menial for advanced species. "Human," Rose called out, her voice dripping with aristocratic disdain. "You missed a spot on Section 7 yesterday. My mother had to walk through dust." Dust, Ilium didn't look up. His hands continued their delicate work, reconnecting neural pathways within the conduit. One wrong move could cascade into a station-wide power failure, but his movements remained steady. "I'm talking to you, human." Rose stepped closer, her tail lashing with irritation. "I heard you," Ilium replied quietly, not breaking his concentration. Section 7 was clean to regulation standard. The audacity of his response struck Rose like a physical blow. A human speaking back to her? Her scales flushed crimson with rage. "You dare, Rose Calith Silera." The voice cut through the air like a plasma blade. Commander Silera emerged from the transit lift, her command uniform immaculate, her presence absolute. The corridor fell silent. Even the station's ambient hum seemed to quiet in deference. Rose's scales immediately shifted to submissive pale blue. "Mother, I was just..." Silence. Silera's compound eyes fixed on her daughter with an intensity that made Rose's friends scatter like startled prey. The commander walked past Rose without another glance, approaching the kneeling human. "Eliam Chen," Silera said, her voice carrying a weight Rose had never heard directed at a human before. "Please stand." Eliam set down his tools carefully, wiping his hands on a rag before rising to his feet. He stood a full head shorter than the commander, his frame slight compared to Valorian musculature, yet he met her gaze without flinching. "Commander," he acknowledged with a simple nod. Rose's world tilted sideways. Her mother, the iron-willed military governor who made admirals tremble, had said please to a janitor. Silera turned to Rose, her expression carved from stone. "Do you know who this human is?" Rose's mouth opened, closed. "He's... maintenance crew?" "Look at his hands, daughter. Really look." Rose forced herself to observe the human more carefully. The hands were scarred, yes, but the scars formed patterns. Thousands of tiny marks, burns from welding, cuts from precision work. These weren't the hands of a simple janitor. These were the hands of someone who had spent decades mastering their craft. "Eliam Chen," Silera continued, "was the chief engineer aboard the human colony ship Perseverance. When humanity's sun began its death cycle, he designed the arc ships that saved 3 billion lives. He was offered a position on any of the Paradise Colony worlds." Rose's scales rippled with confusion. "Then why?" 23 years ago, this station suffered a catastrophic reactor failure," Eliam said quietly. "I was passing through on a transport. Your mother was a young lieutenant then, fresh from the academy." Silera's voice softened almost imperceptibly. "We had 17 minutes before core breach. Our best engineers were dead or dying. The senior staff was trying to evacuate, writing off everyone in the lower decks, including the nursery where Rose was sleeping with 200 other infants." Rose's blood turned cold. This human, Silera gestured to Eliam, walked into a radiation-flooded reactor chamber that registered lethal levels. He stayed there for 43 minutes, manually rerouting coolant systems while his skin blistered and his cells died. "He saved this station." "He saved you?" Eliam shrugged one shoulder. "The children needed saving." "The radiation poisoning destroyed his enhanced genetics," Silera continued. "Humans had engineered themselves to be stronger, faster, to live for centuries. Ilium sacrificed all of that. He'll be lucky to see 70 years now, and because he was never officially on our crew manifest, because he was just a visiting human, and the bureaucracy couldn't recognize his service with anything more than a maintenance position. Rose felt her knees weaken. I didn't know. Of course you didn't, Solara said coldly. You were too busy believing the propaganda, too comfortable in your ignorance. Ilium Chen asked only one thing in return for his sacrifice: to stay here, to keep maintaining the systems he rebuilt, to ensure what he saved stays saved. The commander's next words struck like a physical blow. Bow before him, Rose. Bow before the being who gave everything so you could live to mock him. Rose's pride, her carefully constructed identity, crumbled. She dropped to her knees, pressing her forehead to the cold deck plating in the deepest gesture of Valorian respect. Tears tracked down her scales. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Ilium crouched down, his scarred hand gentle on her shoulder. Stand up, kid. I didn't save you so you could spend your life on your knees. I saved you so you could be better than the system that measures worth by species instead of character. Rose looked up into eyes that held no anger, only a tired kindness that had endured more pain than she could imagine. Learn from this, Ilium said softly. Every being deserves dignity. Every job has value. The person who keeps your lights on, your air flowing, your children safe, they're not beneath you. They're beside you. He stood, retrieving his tools. Now, if you'll excuse me, Commander, I have a conduit to finish. Section 7 also needs another sweep. Some kids tracked in dust earlier. As Ilium returned to his work, Rose remained kneeling, watching the human who had sacrificed everything for strangers. Her mother's hand on her shoulder felt heavier than gravity. Remember this moment, Solara said quietly. Remember that heroism doesn't require recognition. Remember that the most important work is often done by those society overlooks. And never forget that humans taught us something we'd forgotten. That true strength is measured not by what you take, but by what you give. Rose nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. The crystalline corridors of Nexus Station gleamed as before, but now she saw them differently, saw the thousands of conduits, the millions of connections all maintained by scarred human hands. Humanity, she realized with sudden clarity, hadn't been uplifted by the galaxy. The galaxy had been uplifted by them.